Hey, this is Jack, the Jack Sparrow channel. Welcome back. I feel like I need to talk about this. I feel like this needs to be addressed. Um, as many of you are probably aware by now, Jussie Smollett has been, they've dropped all the charges against Jussie Smollett. And I have a take on this. Of course, everybody has a take on it. I'd like to preface of course, in this day and age, in 2019, you have to preface and disclaimer everything. I don't have problems with black people. I don't have problems with gay people. Not whatsoever. Now, having said that, let's get into what the real issue is. As many of you know, Jussie Smollett's charges have been dropped. Let's read through this article from the New York Times, and I'll give you my take on it as we go through it. Jussie Smollett's charges are dropped, angering mayor and police. Chicago. In a startling about-face on Tuesday that drove a rift between Mayor Rahm Emanuel, as if anybody remembers, Rahm Emanuel was one of President Obama's former President Obama's aides. He was in his cabinet, and he left to become the mayor of Chicago. He is a left-leaning dude, by all means, a left-leaning guy. So keep that in mind when you think about Chicago, when you think about general police corruption, general corruption in politics. You think about the fact that this is a left-leaning dude. Now, local prosecutors, he drove a wedge between them. The Cook County State's Attorney's Office dropped all charges against the Empire actor Jussie Smollett, who had been accused of staging a hate crime attack in the city's downtown in January, when it was like 40 below. Announced in court in a hastily convened hearing, slammed the door on a case that became a national fascination and a flashpoint, with its overtones of racial and political discord in a city with a history of tension over law enforcement. It drew waves of celebrity commiseration and torrents of finger-shaking tweets as the victim turned into a suspect and a defendant. And by Tuesday night, many questions remained unanswered, including why prosecutors had suddenly decided to let Mr. Smollett off only a month after his arrest, and what actually happened at 2 a.m. on January 29 as he was walking back from a late sandwich at a Subway. Mr. Smollett, who is black, gay, and outspoken on social issues, had told the police that two men jumped him while taunting him with homophobic and racial slurs and yelling, "This is MAGA country," a reference to President Trump's Make America Great Again slogan. The assailants, according to Mr. Smollett, tied a rope around his neck and poured a chemical substance on him. He was briefly treated at a hospital. The police spent days poring over surveillance camera footage to locate the two men and eventually homed in a pair of brothers who knew Mr. Smollett. But after hours of questioning, the police said the men said they had been paid by the actor to concoct the attack as a way to gain publicity because he was unhappy with his Empire salary. The resulting charges embarrassed Mr. Smollett, 36, imperiled his career, and raised the possibility of jail time. There's still that. As of Tuesday, the prospect of jail at least was no longer a problem for him. That's not true. The state's attorney office said in a statement, after reviewing all the facts and circumstances of the case, including Mr. Smollett's performance of community service, keep that in mind, and an agreement to forfeit his $10,000 bond payment, keep that in mind as well. We believe this outcome is a just disposition and appropriate resolution. In an interview later, Joe Maggots, the prosecutor who made the decision, said there had been no problems with the evidence or the police investigation into Mr. Smollett. So the corrupt Chicago police did their jobs correctly, apparently, for once. He also noted that Mr. Smollett had no previous criminal record and said that dropping the charges didn't exonerate him. Admission of guilt. We work to prioritize violent crime and the drivers of violent crime, Mr. Maggot said. I don't see Jussie Smollett as a threat to public safety. But soon after, in a striking news conference, the mayor and the police superintendent, Eddie Johnson, sharply criticized the state's attorney's office and the actor himself. Mr. Emanuel said that Mr. Smollett's celebrity had played a role in the decision, calling it a whitewash of justice. And this is true. And remember what I spoke about with Rahm Emanuel. Okay, we'll come back to all this. Well, I'll leave my take on the very end. You cannot have, because of a person's position, one set of rules apply to them and one set of rules apply to everyone else, Mr. Emanuel said. Our officers did hard work day in, day out, countless hours, working to unwind what actually happened that night, he added. The city saw its reputation dragged through the mud. Further, Mr. Johnson said, I think this city is still owed an apology. At the end of the day, he added, it's Mr. SMollet who committed this hoax. The state's attorney's office did not respond to the remarks. Exoneration or no, Mr. SMollet, who maintained his innocence, the outcome could hardly have been better. We'll see. After the hearing, he read a statement outside the courthouse without taking questions. He thanked his family, friends, and the incredible people of Chicago all over the country and the world who have prayed for me, who have supported me. It goes on, it's a longer article, but I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to leave the link in the description. It actually goes through a pretty lengthy amount. Now, I want to give my take on this, and I want to be perfectly clear. Evidence points against Jussie SMollet, with the brothers that were found out to have bought the paraphernalia by their own admission. Also, in conjunction with that, the old school hate message with the white powder that was mailed to like a TV station or something like that of that nature. The evidence is overwhelming. There's other reports that state that the Chicago police had more evidence on the table to more than lock him away. Remember when I said Mr. Rahm Emanuel is a very left-leaning guy, and I never thought I'd see the day where I was standing on the same side as he was, but he's absolutely correct. He said that Mr. Smollett's celebrity had played a role in the decision, calling it a whitewash of justice. You cannot hide because of a person's position. One set of rules apply to them, and one set of rules apply to everyone else, and he's absolutely correct. You cannot. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, Jew, gay, straight, woman, man, does not matter who the heck you are. Celebrity, when you have an elitist group, this is what a majority of Americans have a problem with. The elitist, this elitist mentality that all you're going to get is a slap on the wrist. You're not going to actually pay for your crimes. You're not actually going to have to pay the piper for these things. You go through and you read about this stuff, and you're like, this is ridiculous. We believe the outcome is a just disposition and appropriate resolution. How do you figure? So, a man can concoct a hoax, a hate crime hoax, that could have incited rage, could have incited social unrest, riots. Have people coming out of the woodwork, throwing a fit about this, about two white guys, wearing MAGA hats, beating up a gay black man. It's a huge issue. That's wrong. It's evil. It could have caused people could have gotten hurt. You could have had in a city like Chicago, which is kind of volatile, you could have had people out in the streets. It's a miracle that didn't happen. Now, what if the shoe was on the other foot? What if this was a straight white man who made up the story about two gay black men beating him up and saying this, something about Black Panther or something like that. Not Black Panther the movie, about Black Power. What if it was the other way around, the complete other way? And let's say that would cause riots right there. And then let's take a step further. Let's say they find, oh no, we're going to drop all charges. What would happen? There would be riots in the streets. There would be civil unrest. There would be all sorts of issues. That could have caused an issue over a hoax. Now, a lie is a lie is a lie. And there should always be consequences for that. This is a serious issue. It's illegal. It's immoral. This kind of behavior, regardless of who it is, I don't care what race or what your preference is in the bedroom or what gender you are. Coming up with a hoax to point a finger at somebody for any reason whatsoever is evil and wrong. And he needs to be held accountable. That's the only way to it. He needs to be held accountable. There is the prospect of federal investigation based on the the white powder and white substance that was sent in that pasted together letter. What comes of that? It could possibly go. It could possibly go further. I mean, the fact that that mentions that he has forfeit the $10,000 bond payment, and the fact that he had community service already, and that the fact that this did not exonerate him speaks volumes of his actual guilt. They do not believe he is innocent. Then why would a judge drop the charges and seal the case? Why? What is going on here? This is something we really need to think about in this mad world we live in. Any celebrity that pulls these kind of stunts, and this happens, it's an issue. Any politician that pulls these stunts and this sort of thing, anybody, I don't care what status you are, this happens, it's wrong. So I just want to leave my thoughts on it. I think it's an injustice. I do agree completely with Rahm Emanuel. We see eye to eye on this very much so. It is a whitewash of justice. And it doesn't matter who the heck this what the color of skin Jussie SMollet was, or what the dude, if you like guys or you like girls, was a woman. It doesn't matter who the heck, whoever would have been that person, that Jussie SMollet, finger quotes, it's still wrong. And there's a lot more to this, it seems like. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I'm curious to know what your thoughts are. Leave me a comment in the comment section below. And if you like the video, like it. And if you like what I'm putting out, think about subscribing. We got videos coming out most every Tuesday, Thursday, and on the weekend. I usually come up with a much more artistic video. But until then, until the next video drops, keep your eyes on the horizon. We'll talk to you later.